All right, have and have not fans. Now, first of all, I apologize for not doing this video sooner. Personally, life has been extremely busy the past few days. I didn't get the flu. Now, I just wanted to make that, clear from the start, but I was going through some minor health, like how you have like a 24, 48 hour bug? That's pretty much what I had. Like, I wasn't like bedridden, but let me just put it this way. I did not have a lot of energy, but thankfully with some medicine, prayer, drinking a lot of fluids, I seem to be back in top form. So I want to do this video as quickly as possible and just wanted to make it clear there are more videos on the way because we have the mid-season finale coming up. And as I said before, I was surprised 10 episodes, and then we're going to have a mid-season finale. Now, does this mean the back half of the season in 2018 is going to be longer than usual? Does this mean the break between the mid-season and first part and the second part will be shorter? As of right now, I'm unaware, but hey, just know that this channel will still be going. But I just wanted to do this video to kind of give like an episode review. As always, I'm not really going to touch upon every single point in the episode because, to be honest, there really wasn't that much to talk about. But over the past couple of days, I want to say this up front, this was probably one of the worst episodes of the season. Now, that I'm not saying that affects my score, but I'm just saying that in terms of what the fans thought, because Facebook, Twitter, my YouTube, I have never seen that many negative posts about an episode after it's aired in my time on social media after the haves and the have-nots. I mean, people were complaining about this episode wasn't nothing. I fell asleep after the first 5 or 10 minutes. How is this a good lead into the mid-season finale? The characters are just talking about the same thing. What are they doing with this Landon and Charles mess? This Gia girl is just, what the heck is up with her? Jim and how he looks, and the list goes on. Now, I want to be honest here. I agree with several of those points, but I actually made a list of what episodes I'm going to be doing, videos. And as of right now, not counting live streams, I only have about 4 to 6 video ideas for between now and the next episode, like predictions for the mid-season finale. Obviously, my thoughts on the episode as a whole. Things about Gia, Melissa, but overall, I don't think this was a horrible episode, but I don't think it was that good either. It's been 3 for 3 in terms of episode of what? Hannah's, what was it? Dang it. An Eye for an Eye, Wicked, and every 6 months. For 3 weeks, I've sat through lackluster episodes of the haves and the have-nots, and this episode is no exception. Now, for those of you who comment on the videos about me not getting to the point, well, hey, it is what it is. But this particular video, I don't want to make it sound like I'm ranting, but I just wanted to make it clear, like, here's why I wasn't able to do videos right away. But the backlash from the fan base on this episode, I could not ignore it. But this episode to me started off good, but then it went downhill. Let me explain why. So for starters, we had the opening, Hannah and David going back and forth. Based off the preview, I was pretty excited because here's what I love, when two characters are going back and forth, but they both make valid points. David about Benny ought to tell the truth, and Hannah is like, oh, really? Tell the truth? And how about you? And she throws it back to season 1 when Benny got arrested for driving that car that Candace blackmailed from Jim that had the drugs planted in it by David. And remember that during that time, Benny was in jail and Catherine was helping Benny find a lawyer. So Hannah, they got with Veronica. But before that, I believe that Hannah went to, when she says chambers, that was like his office in the courthouse. And she was asking for, help getting a lawyer when she's talking and looking dead in the eyes of the man that had her son arrested untruthfully. I think that's a word. But when she referenced to crying, if you go back, I think if I can, I'll try to post a link to that video in the description below. It's when Hannah is, and again, this is one of my favorite Hannah moments. It's when Hannah is praying and David is literally in tears like a baby. That's one of the scenes that made David one of my favorite characters back in the day, showing that he wasn't as evil and conniving as people like Jim and Veronica. And as Hannah said, it's like, I thought you were being, truthful and honest, but that was the Holy Spirit convicting you for lying. And then you got David throwing, Bible verses about, do unto others what has been done unto me. And then the Bible says an eye for an eye. Hannah goes an eye for an eye. That's a bit of Old Testament. And I'm just like, well, that's a good argument. But at the same time, I love that exchange. Then Benny comes up and, David was telling the truth about not trusting Veronica. And then the Malone bomb that he dropped, man, that was good. But here's the thing. And here's where this episode began to falter for me. I count at least probably 5 or 6 times during that conversation between Hannah and David, where she's like, oh, you want to talk to Benny? My son, he's a grown man. You could talk to him yourself. She said grown man almost as many times as Monique said donkey of the day during her Breakfast Club interview. I'm sorry, guys. That does not leave my mind anytime soon. That was funny. But then we get to the scene where it's Hannah and Benny, and it's the same tired discussion. Hannah treating Benny like a child. To be honest, she is telling the truth. He should know better about sleeping around, especially with Veronica of all people. But it's just like, I'm so done with it. I'm just done. It's just I think if I'm not, I time most of these scenes. If you count between the beginning of the episode to when, Benny and Hannah both left the living room, that was about a good 10 to 12 minutes of the episode. And after that, I kind of knew that this episode was not going to be a favorite of mine. Then we get to the scene where, let's see, I'm not trying to do a play-by-play. I'll just skip around. I mean, we got Wyatt going to see Jeffrey in jail. I mean, it's just as expected. He's talking about those two going away, Callie living it up. But based off the preview for next week, it looks like Oscar is going to have all of his accounts drained within the next 24 hours. I think he said the next morning all the accounts are going to be emptied and sent to Jim. So Wyatt's going to be screwed, kind of based off this picture we see of him looking in the mirror in the preview, looking like he's high, but I'm guessing it's because it's depression. Now, does this have anything to do with Justin catching Wyatt in a hug with Jeffrey? I don't think so. I think it's more in line of Jeffrey's waking up, a fresh new day, then he gets the news that his accounts are emptied, and he's going to have to do exactly what Jim wanted. Well, I wouldn't even say wanted, but predicted he would do, crawl back to his parents in order to not testify. So what I'm thinking is that Jim Cryer is going to be happy that the money is back in his possession, but then it's going to be over for Wyatt. And we actually see a picture in one of the extended trailer for this season that Wyatt is going to show up when his parents are there. Like, his parents are going to be there the next day and he's going to be in the room. It looks like Wyatt is going to be jumping at something and Jim's holding him back. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens with that. And if I'm not mistaken, didn't George put in a restraining order on those two? So I wonder how that's going to play out. Okay, I'm trying not to get to the negative stuff, but here's a good part. Melissa's character, I did like the fact that she was talking about she doesn't want that baby to go through the same thing that Veronica put her and Jeffrey through. So that's pretty interesting. And it looks like the next episode is actually going to be the next day, given the fact that Jim said him and Catherine will go visit Wyatt in the morning. So I don't know if we're going to see Melissa going to the doctor to check on the status of the baby, given the fact that we're going to see Veronica lose her, what's left of her mind and just jump the gun to go over to David's house. But then we see a text message, and I want to do a separate video on this, but if I'm not mistaken, let me see. I wrote it down because I actually zoomed in. The message that Melissa sending Benny on Veronica's phone when she put it down is, I have to go out for a while, but I want to see you. Please come to my house. And then they cut it right there. So Melissa might be trying to set up Benny in terms of, you're going to come over while she's gone. And who knows, that might cause some more tension. All right, Charles. Okay, let me just put it this way. When it comes to Landon and Charles, I didn't mind them this episode, at least Landon when it came to the Candace scene. I didn't care for the whole I'm in love with him and blah, blah, blah. I really don't care. It's just amazing how Candace and Veronica have people in their circles who are dropping truth bombs, but they don't want to hear it. Like Landon is like, look, you're acting out of anger over the death of your son. And that is actually correct. Like literally the way she's acting now, this pimp thing, it is just not suiting her at all. And as Landon said, better dressed as first lady. And it's just crazy because she has this golden opportunity to erase her past and be the first lady. It's just ridiculous how, as I mean, again, Landon just laid it out on the line, and it's amazing because remember he did the same thing to Maggie Day before she posted that picture in the newspaper and created that false story. You know, the picture where Benny and Veronica are in David's truck making out, and then the story is like, you know, how Veronica and Jim were concocting some plan together, and that's what got David out of jail. And then next thing you know, she got shot. And then Landon's just telling Candace the truth about stop robbing these senators and whatnot. And literally, she has this golden ticket, but she's just going to give it up for revenge. So I really don't have anything else to say on that. Then we get to the Gia stuff. Okay, let me just put it this way. There is a video I'm going to do. It's called, and this is a working title, Is Gia a Good Vice in regards to Undercover Vice, or a bad escort? Because the way she was kind of overacting and whatnot in regards to Catherine coming into Jim's room and then going to talk to Candace about it, she really struck me more as a character from a Tyler Perry play as opposed to a Tyler Perry drama series. Just the way she was acting. Now, if she's an undercover vice and not used to this kind of quote unquote danger, then more power to her. She is convincing. Being like a naive newbie in a prostitution game or escort game, hey, I'm all for it. But if it turns out she's a legit escort, but then she's acting the way she is, I'm kind of shaking my head like Candace. I'm just, wow. And then the fact that she's only going to pay her, what, $100? I think she only gave her $100 and ripped it or something like that. Gosh, so much that I want to say, but I did not care for that part. I think it was dragged out. I did, you know, like the fact that she had that attitude, went back in to get the money. And the funny thing to me was the whole Candace saying, oh, she's all talk. She doesn't have a gun. And then I'm like, well, if you were there when Jennifer Salson were there, you probably changed your tune. The way that Candace called out Catherine for, you know, not having the guts to do something like that. But then we know for a fact she did kill somebody. It reminded, or shot somebody to death. It reminded me of like season 1 where Celine was telling Hannah, it's like, oh, you're trying to get with Jim, aren't you? Well, he's not into black women when he's been screwing Candace the entire season up to that point. But wow. So then we get to I mean, the cliffhanger ending is as we expected. You know, Justin walks in. I really don't have anything to say about that. Let's see. I'm trying to see. Honestly, there isn't that much to talk about because most of the scenes were pretty long, and yeah, I've already talked about Charles, David, Jim. Okay. I will admit that Jim Cryer, yeah. One thing that this episode that was a turn off for me was how these characters are not consistent in their personalities. I mean, we got Candace, of course. You know, I talked about it before about her doing this whole pimp thing, but it's just her coping process for Quincy Jr. And I did like what Landon said. It's like, you know what? You don't want to see him, but don't be surprised if he shows up. And I did like that aspect because Charles is, you know, doing what he wants to do. I mean, his attraction to Candace, which makes no sense, is kind of like my attraction to Alex from Loving You Is Wrong. I'm no stranger. I ain't ashamed to say it. I love me some Alex, even though she's a, you know, crazy liar that cheats, but whatever. Hey, to each their own. But I'm just saying that when it comes down to personality, let's just look at a few things. I love Catherine Cryer, but as Jim pointed out, you know, he is an asshole, but he is correct. It's like, well, so the DA came over to your house and now we have to get out of this. Where did this we come from? Look at Catherine's character this entire season so far. She has been an aloof, I don't give a F personality about going to jail for Jennifer Salison and getting a divorce from Jim. So I'm with Jim when he said, so at what point did this become we? So you're going to go on that phone, cut back all my credit cards, put money back in my account and call off the divorce. So there is the one thing I do like about Jim, but that has been his downfall in some cases, is where when somebody finally crawls back to him, then he will hold that power over them. It's like he won't just crumble and just instantly take them back in. He will do whatever it takes to keep them under his thumb, but then work together. Case in point, look at when Wyatt got raped in jail by Toxic. And he found out from the cops, you know, basically the cops that he put in charge of his son. That's when Jim found out that his son got raped by Toxic. Then when Jim went back to visit Wyatt, Wyatt was like literally out of it. He was like, Dad, you got to get me out of here. And then Jim pretty much, instead of being like, you know, that caring father, because his son, it was his fault. Because remember, as Catherine said, when the two of them went to visit Wyatt in jail, if they would have got Wyatt out when she said so, none of that would not have happened. But Jim was like, you know, Wyatt, I'll do what I can. Wyatt, let go of my shirt, Wyatt. I will do what I can to get you out of here. Then he walked away. He's like, don't leave me. Don't leave me. And then when Jim got back to the office where the cops were, he told them all to leave. And then he literally started breaking down in tears because, you know, he does care about his son. However, he will do whatever it takes to maintain that power before helping out someone. Keep that in mind, because next week that might come in handy. And yeah, one of the most negative things I've seen on the internet was, you know, jabs at Jim's physique. Now, I will admit, he doesn't seem to have that same level of muscle tone that he had back during, you know, the first few seasons where we would see him, you know, in bed with Candace and whatnot. But to be fair, John Snyder has been going through a lot in his personal life outside of the haves and the have-nots. So, you know, I mean, I'm not a ab guy myself. I got flab. I ain't ashamed to say it, but it is noticeable when you got like a guy that, I mean, he actually changed his life around. I remember when I first started watching the show, like I did some research on the characters, like, you know, he has a YouTube channel and whatnot, and he did like, was it P90X or some kind of exercise program, because at the time he had a gut, but then he worked it off and Jim Cryer was born. So, you know, hopefully things, you know, he'll turn it around, but it's noticeable, let's just put it that way. So with that being said, you know, in a nutshell, I would probably give this episode maybe like a solid 7. I mean, I feel like last week I gave it like a 6.5 because that episode did piss me off. But this episode was it wasn't horrible, but it's not one I'm going to rewatch anytime soon. I mean, like I said, it started off pretty promising, but then we get to the same old, you're sleeping with that woman. What did I told you not to. And it's like, Ma, come on. And then you got Candace just, oh God. So all I got to say is this. Typically speaking, from past seasons, the episode prior to a mid or season finale has been better than the actual finale itself. This was not one of those episodes. I just hope that next week, the mid-season finale is really good. I don't want to toot my own horn, but I have this odd feeling that I'm going to do my prediction video, hit every nail on the head, and be extremely disappointed. But let me just point out one thing. I want to do a video on this in the future as well. I think we can all agree that the camera work this season has been top notch. Like, I feel like the quality, the angles, the lighting, the scenery, can we at least agree that that looks pretty damn good? I mean, honestly, it looks really good. I just wish the quality of like the dialogue and the storylines matched the quality of the different angle that Tyler Perry is shooting these shots from. I just wanted to point that out. So with that being said, what did you think of An Eye for an Eye? I think it was a pretty lackluster episode. I really hope the mid-season finale picks up the pacing and leaves us with a cliffhanger that wants us wanting more. So with that being said, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Guys, at the time of this recording, we have officially passed 20,000 subscribers, and we're about 23,000 views away from 4 million. I cannot thank you all enough. Literally, I'm just thankful beyond words. I've said I don't get sick of saying it. I mean, if the haves and the have-nots can recycle dialogue between characters, then I can quote unquote recycle my gratitude to everyone that has followed me on this journey. I mean, this sounds like a speech, like I'm into the channel, but that is not the case. I just cannot thank you enough. I cannot stop thinking about where I was this time in 2017, barely with a few hundred subscribers, and we're over 20,000. That's God at work. If he can multiply the channel 20 times over since last year, I just need a 5-time multiplier to get to 100,000. But thank you all so much. Let me know your thoughts on the episode. And again, there are more videos on the way. I did watch If Loving You Is Wrong. That finale was a trip. There are videos on that on the channel as well. So I will talk to you all soon, and have a wonderful day.